With what happened this weekend in Dayton, Ohio, and El Paso, Texas, the Democrats and the media are looking for someone to blame. And their single target, guess who it is? President Trump. Also, is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's team in a complete meltdown? 2 staffers abruptly resigned from her congressional office, and we'll look at all the details. All that and more. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-minute news hour.
And God bless the United States of America.
All right, friends, welcome to the show. And as you know, the big story this weekend was what happened in Dayton, Ohio, and El Paso, Texas. And it is just, it's sick. It's sickening. It's a tragedy. Whenever there's a loss of innocent human life, it is a tragedy. And what I hope happens is that people look at this and try and figure out why, and with a sincere effort, try and stop it from happening again. In Dayton, Ohio, you had a guy just armed with bulletproof vest, ready to die. And I mean, it was clear. And trying to figure out what motivates these people, what is inside their head, is the key to this whole situation. In this case, the shooter's own sister was one of the victims. And I mean, I can't even, wrap my hands around that. Here's the report from Fox News. It says the gunman in the deadly rampage in Dayton, Ohio, was wearing a mask, bulletproof vest, earplugs, and it had at least 100 rounds when he opened fire outside a bar, killing 9, including his sister, and injuring more than 2 dozen, one in critical condition, police said Sunday. Dayton Police Chief Richard Beal said police officers in the area engaged him seconds after the first gunshots were heard, and the gunman was neutralized within 30 seconds after the first gunshots. The shooter was shot and killed by police before he entered Ned Pepper's bar. He was using a .22 caliber rifle. Police said early Sunday the shooter's 22-year-old sister was among the 9 killed. Beal said the shooter's sister was not the first person killed, but among the initial victims. She was with a companion who was injured when she was shot. So, who is this shooter? All right, because that's what the left and the Democrats, they want to know. And in case they can spin it somehow, they'll look for any way to spin it. So, what's his background? Was he a far right-wing wacko like they're hoping? How about a pro-Satan leftist? I mean, here's a report from the Washington Times. It says, the Ohio gunman described himself on social media as a pro-Satan leftist who wanted Joe Biden's generation to die off, hated President Trump and law enforcement, and hoped to vote for Senator Elizabeth Warren for president. I wanted socialism, and I'll not wait for the idiots to finally come around to understanding, he wrote in one tweet, according to Heavy.com. According to Heavy, the shooter also shared posts about concentration camps at the border and wrote, cut the fences down, slice ice ties, throw bolt cutters over the fences. All right, so that's Dayton, Ohio, okay? And then you have the situation in El Paso, which is just, what happened in Ohio was so bad, and Dayton and El Paso was even worse. 20 people were killed, 26, close to 30 were injured when a guy opened fire in a Walmart just picking off people. These people are just sick. And President Trump is going to speak out on this again today, but he issued a statement yesterday, and here's part of what he said.
The job they've done is incredible. They were right on the ball in El Paso. They were there so quickly, and in Dayton in less than a minute. Think of the damage he did in such a short period of time. In less than a minute, the law enforcement acted and killed him. And it would have been unbelievable.
So yes, it could have definitely been worse had law enforcement not acted so quickly. And President Trump went on to talk about the people in the cities, and here's what he said.
We love the people. Hate has no place in our country, and we're going to take care of it. I spoke with Attorney General Bill Barr at length. I spoke to Christopher Wray, director of the FBI. Spoke to the governors, both governors, and we're doing a lot of work.
And like I just mentioned, he's going to speak out more about this today, and he addressed the main concern, which is the mental health issue of these crazies out there. And here's the comments from Trump.
It's not really not talked about very much, but we've done actually a lot. but perhaps more has to be done. But this is also a mental illness problem. If you look at both of these cases, this is mental illness. These are really people that are very, very seriously mentally ill.
So more definitely needs to be done, and nothing serious is going to get done until the left realizes that there are people in trouble here. They actually, over the last couple decades, you've seen this with the LGBT community, with transgender. They de-emphasize the need for mental health screenings and counseling when people are in trouble. When they are mentally disturbed, the left looks for other ways to address that problem, like in this case, going after the guns, without looking at the core issues that these people are messed up and try and get them some help before something like this happens. So, of course, the Democrats were all going crazy. They were making statements. They were, rushing to the camera to try and say something. And here's just a sample. This is Senator Amy Klobuchar, who's one of the many running for president. And here's what she said.
The individuals that do the shootings are responsible. But what I do think is that his rhetoric has fueled more hate in this country.
So she says Trump's rhetoric is fueling all this hate. And you guys know where I stand on this. I've said it before. Probably one of the most divisive presidents in my entire life was Barack Obama. And the things he said to incite racial tension and tension between communities, inner city communities, and police is just pathetic, and it's just horrendous. And he did it over and over again. He was never challenged by the media, never challenged by Democrats. And that's what has given us this state where it doesn't matter what the situation is now. Everyone's looking at race. Everyone's on edge. And it's because of these 8 years of constant just looking for something to drive a wedge in race relations. It is pathetic. And that is the work and the motive and the operations of the left anyway. They don't want racial balance. They don't want equality. They want to separate people from by race so that they can maintain power. If they have power over a group, that helps them go to the next group and go to the next group. If everyone got along, if everyone truly did push for a colorblind society, they'd be out of power, and they know it. So anyway, that was Klobuchar. Here's Beto O'Rourke, who took the rhetoric up even higher. Check this out.
He is a racist, and he stokes racism in this country, and it does not just offend our sensibilities. It fundamentally changes the character of this country, and it leads to violence.
So he flat out calls Trump a racist, all right? And the rhetoric, he says, leads to violence. Okay, what about Antifa? What about all these beatings and vandalism and everything, which is not rhetoric, it's actual violence? They actually go out there and throw bricks at people, beat people up over and over again. We see it, it goes unchecked, and he's talking about rhetoric. I mean, it's just absolutely insane, and you can't take him seriously because in that same interview, you can't take him seriously anyway, but in that same interview, here's what he said.
Where you have a president who's called Mexicans rapists and criminals, though Mexican immigrants commit crimes at a far lower rate than those born here in the country, he has tried to make us afraid of them to some real effect and consequence, attempting to ban all Muslims from this country.
So you see, you can't take someone seriously when they just make up stuff. And we've heard these things over and over again. These rapists and criminals that President Trump was talking about are, guess what? Actual rapists and criminals. He's talking about those that would get into the country because the Democrats want open borders. They don't want vetting. They don't want people checked out. So along with the people that really do deserve asylum, along with the people that are coming who have no criminal histories, you have these kinds of people. And they will get in if there is not a secure border, if there is not a strong vetting process, if there is not enough staff to handle the asylum cases. He knows that. And for him to say that, and then this thing about a total Muslim ban, 100% not true. Everybody knows that. But in this heated weekend, he decides to throw that out there. And it's just completely irresponsible. And that's one of the reasons he's probably dropping like a rock in the polls, because he has no substance. All he is a talking point machine, just repeats the same old stuff. So that was him. And now we have Bernie Sanders, who tweeted this. He says, Mr. President, stop your racist, hateful, anti-immigrant rhetoric. Your language creates a climate which emboldens violent extremists. All right, so that's Sanders. They're playing this racist rhetoric card, to try and silence not only Trump, but anyone who disagrees with their position. These are serious issues we have to deal with. Serious things happen this weekend, and they won't address it. But you know what they will do? They will try and assess blame. And like I told you, like we went over, the shooter in Dayton, he's some leftist wacko, all right? The guy in El Paso, I want to go over some of this. He's one of those guys that left one of these political manifestos that outlined why he's doing this and how he's going to do it, and it's just sickening. But I read through it, and I'm glad I did, because the left is going to try and paint this guy as some right-winger. It was definitely anti-immigrant, racist guy, but to paint him as a right-winger is completely bogus. This guy is more anarchist than anything else. He hated Democrats, hated Republicans, hated corporations. He was anti-immigrant. And if you hear spin in any other direction, you guys need to say, look, that's fake news, because that is not the case. Here is part. I took a clip. I took some excerpts, and I want to go over them with you. Here is part from his manifesto. He says, the inconvenient truth is that our leaders, both Democrat and Republican, have been failing us for decades. They are either complacent or involved in one of the biggest betrayals of the American public in our history, the takeover of the United States government by unchecked corporations. The Democrat Party will own America, and they know it. They have already begun the transition by pandering heavily to the Hispanic voting bloc in the first Democrat debate. They intend to use open borders, free healthcare, free legal, citizenship, and more to enact a political coup by importing and then legalizing millions of new voters. Although the Republican Party is also terrible, many factions within the Republican Party are pro-corporation. Pro-corporation equals pro-immigration, all right? And then he went on and talked about, again, leftist ideas. So he said things like this. He says, achieving ambitious social projects like universal health care and universal basic income would become far more likely to succeed if tens of millions of dependents are removed. Recently, the Senate, under a Republican administration, has greatly increased the number of foreign workers that will take American jobs. Remember that both Democrats and Republicans support immigration and work visas. All right, so that is just some background for you. When you hear something else, you'll at least know, you'll at least be armed. And finally, I just want to go over Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, because her campaign is like in a total meltdown, all right? On Friday, she had 2 staffers leave her congressional office. And here's a report from the Daily Caller. It says, New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's chief of staff, Sakit Chakrabarty, has departed from her D.C. office to work with an outside group focused on pushing the Green New Deal, her office announced Friday. Also departing from Ocasio-Cortez's D.C. office is her communications director, Corbin Trent, who will head communications for her 2020 re-election campaign. So now Chakrabarty is actually under investigation for campaign finance violations. And you got to wonder why her D.C. communications director has already gone back to work on her campaign. The idea that she might lose to a Republican is remote. So could they be worried that, she'll face a challenge in the Democrat primary? And I mean, it's not far-fetched when you consider all the grief that she is causing the leadership in the Democrats, but her campaign definitely seems to be in disarray. Folks, that's our show for today. Please subscribe, and when you do, please hit that bell, and we'll see you on Wednesday. I'm Bobby Eberle. This is a 13-Minute News Hour. Okay, friends, just a little reminder before you go, and no, this does not count against my 13 minutes. Please hit the subscribe button below and tell your friends. And if you happen to miss our last show, you can check it out right here. And also for great conservative news and commentary, please check out GOPUSA.com. All right, folks, we'll see you on the next show. Have a great day.